So good morning. So I thank José Inclán for your participation in this STEP workshop. José as a Fulbright grantee, as a Master of Fine Arts in Communication Design from Pratt Institute, as a Master of Arts in Interaction Design and User Experience from Catalunya University, and as a Strategic Communication Program from Columbia University, and we'll present this workshop about the Fulbright Foreign Student Program. So I will advise all that this session will be recorded. So you can start, Jose.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So as you just said, my name is Jose. I'm from Spain, but right now I live in New York City in the US. And I'm going to talk about a scholarship that all of you can apply to. And I think that it will not only open your mind, but also open your world a little bit. So what is Fulbright? Maybe you haven't heard of it. Maybe you have. Well, Fulbright basically is, and they always say this in the advertisements, it's more than a scholarship. It's an agreement, it's a bilateral agreement between the US and your home country. So in my case, between the US and Spain. So it's not only that the US government, the Spanish government, the Portuguese government gives you money. No, that's not the case. It's a relationship between two countries, and we will see why this is important. So, of course, I say here it's given by the US Department of State, but really depends on the country of origin. So, for example, the scholarship given in Spain is given by the Spanish government, but other countries is given by the US Department of State. But the US Department of State is the one that sponsors you during your stay in the US. What it does. So this is specific Fulbright scholarship because there's many others within Fulbright. You can apply to become in the case of Spain, a Spanish teacher in the US. But the one that I applied for, it pays up to an amount of your master's or PhD degree. So it's, as you know, degrees in the US, especially masters, are really expensive. So the fact that you can have like a help to go there and study is really helpful. Also, something really important is that you cannot study online. You need to be physically in the US during the academic period you have selected. So if it's a master's of a year, you have to be there the whole year. If it's 2 years, you need to be there the whole 2 years. You cannot take any online class. So that's something that you need to consider. So it's not only that you need to think about selecting a master's or a PhD, it's the fact that you need to also select the school you're going to be there, the city you're going to be there, because they want you to experience American culture and then go back to your home country and apply the things that you've learned there. Okay, so I hate talking about myself, but I think it's going to be helpful for y'all. So this is what I've been studying. I studied advertising, PR, and digital media. Then I went to Columbia in New York to do a program in strategic communications. Then I did an Erasmus mobility to the UK when it was part of Europe, to London to study social design. So this is something relevant because they want to know, the selection committee, they want to know what you've studied before, and the more you have, the better. It doesn't mean that you need to have like 3, 4, 5 as I do. You may only have 1 or 2, but the more specific and relevant they are, the better. So for example, the fact that I went to London to study social design is relevant because then the project that I did for Fulbright is based on social design. So I will talk a little bit more about it later on. And then I have an MA in Interaction Design, and right now I'm studying an MFA in Communications Design in New York at Pratt. Experience beyond academics. This is also something relevant. I was a junior designer at Interbrand and interaction designer at Entity Data. Entity Data is a tech company in Spain. So basically, they want you to have experience, not only academic, but also professional. And the more you have, as I'm saying, the better, because you're going to compete with more than 500 people and you need to stand out. If you stand out if you don't stand out academically, you need to stand out professionally. And if you don't do professionally, you need to do academically. So they want someone that has experience, but they're not gonna ask you for 10 years of experience. No, it's a scholarship for someone that has finished their undergrad or has done another MA and you want to do another one in the US. It's not something to think about in 10 years' time, but it's something you need to think about when you start your undergrad or you're about to finish your undergrad, because you need to have a high grade in order to apply to this scholarship. So languages, I speak Spanish, English, French, and Japanese. Again, you are only required to have English, but the more, the better, because you're going to stand out to other candidates. And also, this is something relevant. I'm a volunteer at the Spanish Red Cross. And the more you have to offer them, the better, because the more you're gonna stand out. And Americans are keen to selecting someone that has a lot of volunteering experience, because that's something that they value a lot. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about this scholarship, the Master and PhD scholarship. So what are the requirements? Again, this depends on the country. So for me, for Spain, you need to be to have the Spanish nationality. In case of Portugal, you will need to have the Portuguese nationality. So according to the country you apply, you need to be a citizen of that country. You're going to be a citizen of the US, of course. You need to be a citizen of that country in which you apply for the scholarship. Something also relevant and required is that you need to have finished your undergrad degree. You can be in your last year. So if you have 4 years of undergrad, you can be your 4th year in order to apply, but you cannot be in your 2nd year or 3rd year. You need to be finished or about to finish. Also, something that I think is quite obvious, but I think is important to tell, is that you need to have a really high English level. So I don't know if you're familiar with the TOEFL exam, but it's like it's the American version of the Cambridge language exam that we're all used to in Europe. You need to have at least a 25 of 30 in each section. And this is quite relevant because if you don't, most schools will make you repeat the test and it's quite of a hassle. So the earlier you start to study, the better. So yeah, it's really important that you have a proficient English level. It doesn't matter if you don't have a good accent or not. They don't care about that. But at least you need to know how to speak and how to write at a really, really high level. Also important, again, this is for Spain. Each country will have its own requirement, but most of the countries require really high grade overall in your undergrad. So in Spain, it's more than 90 of 100 on your overall undergrad. So it's not only one subject, it's a combination of all subjects. For example, I had a 93 over 100, and that doesn't mean all the subjects I did, I had a 9 or a 100. No, some subjects I had a 70, others I had an 80, others, of course, I had 100, but overall, you need to have more than 90. And this is really relevant because it's the first selection they're going to make. If you don't have over the limit, they're not going to count you for the second phase. And of course, I know it's a lot of stuff, but you also need a project. What is a project? So it's basically you're writing like a cover letter to the selection committee for them to select you. So they don't only want someone that is really clever and has a really high school grade in undergrad. They want someone that has a really clear idea of what they want to do in the US, why they want to do that in the US, and what is their plan when they go back to their home country. Because I was telling you before, this is not a scholarship, it's an agreement. So Fulbright, the most important about Fulbright is that you go to the US to study, and then you go back to your home country to apply what you have studied in the US. Okay, tips. They're not going to tell you this, but tips that you need to know, and I'm telling you, be really specific. they're gonna read more than 500 applications. If you write, I want to study in the US because it's my dream, everyone has the dream of studying in the US. You need to be really, really specific. What makes you different from other people and what makes your project different? Again, yeah, I'm gonna talk about why is it unique, why is it different? Everything is about that. So be original. If, for example, you're planning, I don't know, I study design and advertising. If you are planning on, I don't know, you can say New York is the best place to study advertising because all the most famous advertising agencies are there. Yeah, that's true, but why? Why do you want to study there? You can say, for example, because you know you're a really big fan of an advertiser that lives there or of an agency that is there, something like that. You need to be unique. It's not only about general details, but really, really being specific. Also, it needs to be realistic. So, for example, what is a project? So my Fulbright project is to learn how design can be applied to social change. And my project is to study that in the US and then go back to Spain and create my own design studio that is focused on design for social change. So why my project was unique? Because it's a design area that is not that known about. It's an area that is starting to grow and it's about social change and about design for good. It's something that it's about NGOs and social causes, and that's something that is really relevant and they love basically. And is it realistic? In my case, it was realistic because the US is pioneered in social design. So then going back to Spain, creating my own design studio, something realistic. You cannot say, for example, I want to go to the US, learn, I don't know, if you study economics, learn economics and then become the CEO of the biggest company in Spain. Come on, that's not realistic. It's a dream. It would be amazing, but it's not realistic. They want someone that has a really, really clear idea of what they want to do. And again, impactful. Does it make social change? They want someone that goes to the US, um, gathers in conversation with other students, basically apply the knowledge they know from their own country in the US and then go back to Spain or whatever country and apply that. So it's like two ways, okay? So let's go a little bit into the application process. Again, this depends on the country you apply, but I'm gonna share the example of Spain. So, okay, so in case of Spain, you have from January to April every year to apply. It's not quite a tough application process. It's basically just sharing your details, where you studied, your TOEFL level. So something that they don't require you to have the TOEFL exam before the application deadline, but if you have it, better, because then you don't need to do it again. You can do like a Duolingo test or an online test and submit that result. But if you have it, better, because they're gonna say, oh, this person has it, so we know that we can count with him or her. So when you have a lot of that information collected, it's like 1,000 words for explaining your project. You need 3 cover letters. That's something really, well, cover letter, recommendation letters. I recommend being 2 from teachers and 1 from your internship or professional experience. That's important. 2 from teachers or your dean or someone in your school, and 1 from job experience, okay? And then in May, approximately, they're gonna tell you if you pass the first round or not. This is only based on transcript. Okay, so if you have more than each year, the threshold changes. So last year was, I think, 89 over 100. And again, this changes based on your background. So the threshold is gonna be higher for humanities, social languages, whatever, arts, and it's gonna be lower for sciences, because sciences are harder to have a better grade. And then in June, they're gonna interview you. They're gonna in-person interview you. In case of Spain, it was in Madrid. In case of Portugal, I guess it would be Lisbon. I don't know. And they're gonna ask you to go there. It's 20 minutes interview, and they're gonna ask you a lot of questions. A lot of questions. and you need to be quite prepared for that. And then I think it's in July, more or less, they're gonna tell you if you have the scholarship or not. Something that you need to take into account, more than 400 people apply, but there's only 15 scholarships. Okay, so tips that I can tell you. Conviction, you need to be really secure about it. Even if you don't know what the heck you're gonna do in the US, you need to fake it. You need to say, I want to do this, 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 and this. Really specific, because they don't want someone that doesn't know what the heck they're gonna do in the US. They want someone that knows exactly, really detail what they're gonna do. Also, passion. You're living for this. One of the questions that they ask a lot is, what if you don't get the scholarship? You need to say, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. You need to be really, really passionate about your project and really secure about it. You need to have an American mindset about this. The Americans are really good at selling stuff. You need to really prepare for this and believe in yourself. Even if you don't, you need to make them think that you believe in yourself. Of course, it needs to be a link between your country and the US. So in my case, for example, it's how I'm in the US studying and applying the things I've learned in Spain, and then go back to Spain to apply the things I've learned in the US. And again, you need to be persistent. If you fail, you're gonna try again. I mean, let's be honest. I received a scholarship the second time I applied. The first time I didn't get it because they're really, really competitive. They were like, you don't have enough job experience. So I did an internship and then I applied again. And that's something that I like. And I literally told them, okay, I'm here the second year. I did exactly what you told me to do. Give me the scholarship. You need to be really like that, really pushy. Also, yeah, of course, they're looking for academic exchanges that you've done. That's why I show you what I did. If you have Erasmus, they're gonna love to see that. Also, something important, you need to have university preferences and reasons for it. You need to select at least 3 before applying. Even you can change them afterwards. If you get the scholarship, you can 100% change them, but at least you need to know where you want to go to, and you need to be realistic. You need to, I mean, for example, if you're going to study design, you cannot go to Columbia or Harvard because they're not specialized at that. If you want to study journalism, of course, those are the best ones, but it needs to be both realistic and you need to have a really good reason to apply for that school. So it's not only because it's the best one in the US. No, you need to say, I've been talking through LinkedIn with this teacher that teaches there, and they told me blah blah blah. The earlier you start speaking with schools and going to the online sessions, which is free, so use that, the better, because they're gonna say, oh, this person is really into this university. They've been to the online sessions, whatever. They need to know exactly why you want to go there. And also reference letters, recommendation letters. You need to be really clever. You need to ask it to someone that knows you really well, that you've been working with. So for example, I asked the 2 letters, one to my final major project director, and the other one to my best teacher that I was doing some graphic design projects with her. So it's someone that basically knows you in school. It's not someone that you had a subject with and you liked her or him. No, it needs to be someone that they know you. Okay, so let's move into things to take into account. And this is something that they really don't tell you, and I'm gonna tell you. Well, they tell you, but it's not as clear as some people think because, oh, scholarship, they cover everything. No, Fulbright doesn't cover everything. So Fulbright pays between 35 and 40K per academic year, but masters in the US cost 60K. You can do the math. You can do the math. It's not enough. Fulbright is just a help. It's an amazing help. Don't get me wrong, but you need more than that. So let's look at an example per semester, okay? So in my school, this is real data from my school, from Pratt. Again, it depends. New York is really expensive. If you go to Arkansas, maybe tuition is going to be cheaper, but it's more or less the same. So per semester, approximately 32K. Fulbright covers 17K, but you need to pay 14K. How can you pay this? There are two options. Either you ask for a loan in your home country's bank, either you have the money and you've been saving, or something that I did and is what you should do. You can ask for another scholarship to your school. So basically what I have, Fulbright gives me 17K and Pratt gives me 14K. Of course, what do you need to do to get it? I need to maintain a GPA of 4, which is the maximum over the 2 years. So I need to study a lot. You know what I mean? Like, things are not given for free, never. So Fulbright are gonna ask you to have a really high grade over the year or 2 years of the MA. And if your school gives you a scholarship, they're also gonna ask for this. Other things you can do, you can become a GA, a graduate assistant, or a TA, a teacher's assistant. So basically you can work for the school if they give you and offer you a job, and the money they give you during the semester, you can use it to pay the tuition. So there are ways. But yeah, this is the reality. It's really, really expensive. Okay, so something that you need to take into account. There's a rule called the 2-year rule. So it means that if your master is 2 years long, you can stay in the US working all the 2 years. If it's 1 year, another year. So it's double the time you stay studying. But when this time finishes, you need to go back to your country for 2 years. And this is a compulsory rule. It cannot be changed. What do I mean go back to 2 years? You can go back to the US in vacation as a tourist, but you cannot go back to the US to work or to study again in 2 years. And that's something that if you're a Fulbright scholar, you need to know, because you need to plan your life according to this. Also, something that I haven't told you, because I don't have a spouse, I'm not married, but if you're married, if you have children, if you get a J1 visa, which is the one that you get with Fulbright, you can ask for free for a J2 visa, and your partner can go with you to the US. So if you're older than me, you can think about it. It doesn't mean that you need to leave your partner and your children here. I met a lot of people from Fulbright in the US that have kids, they have a wife, a husband, whatever, and they are living with them in the US. And yeah, this is also something really relevant. If you start MA, a master's, an MFA, whatever, you can apply again for a PhD. So if you're staying 2 years, and then you can apply for a PhD and stay 5 more years according to the PhD. Okay, now let's go into the good part. What do you receive? So besides tuition that they pay you, which is 35 to 40K according to the year, they pay you to live in the US, because living in the US is really expensive. So the maximum that they paid our group, which we received a scholarship 2 years ago, was 2.9K per month. They're gonna increase, at least in Spain, this monthly income to 4K, because living in the US is really, really expensive. For example, I live with another flatmate in New York in a really small apartment, and we pay $3,000 in total for rent to pay the apartment. So you can imagine it's 1.5K per person. So it might look like a lot of money, but it's not, because living in the US is really expensive, especially New York. And then they're gonna pay you 1.3K for airplane tickets to go there and to go back. So it's basically, and then moving costs. So it's basically, they're not gonna pay you when you wanna go back to your home country in Christmas or in summer. No, they only cover one way, and when you finish, the other way. And they give you the money. They're not gonna ask you where do you want to use it. You can use it whatever you want to, but the purpose of it is tickets and moving in costs, like, I don't know, furniture you wanna buy, whatever. Also, something really important, they give you health insurance, which in the US is really, really expensive. You're covered in that sense, and you can go to select hospitals if you're sick. And of course, it unlocks many doors. We're looking for degrees. So when you're applying for, when you get the scholarship and you're applying for different universities, if they know you're a Fulbright scholar, they're not gonna give you a preference, but they're gonna look you better. They're gonna say, oh, this person is really clever because they have a Fulbright scholarship, and they know. All schools in the U.S. know what a Fulbright is. Again, you play in another league. You're sponsored by the US government. You're not a regular international student. You're a Fulbright student. And again, when you're applying for internships, when you're applying for a position within the school, you need to say it because that means that you've been through a really, really long process and they know that you're a person to take into account. And also, Fulbright is recognized worldwide. Well, this is every institution knows Fulbright, not really, but most of them knows Fulbright, especially universities and institutions based on academics. Also, it's the biggest educational scholarship in the US and something that is really important. I think it's the thing you're gonna like the most about this scholarship. It's not about money, it's about meeting people and making contacts. For example, this is a picture I took of my group from last semester. I met all these friends in just 1 year and we're really good friends. And all together we did a project for the US National Parks. And I'm a graphic designer. I come from advertising. I learned how to make boxes and how to cut wood. And it's something that I wouldn't have learned in Spain. So it's something that you need to, when you think about going to the US, you need to think about learning something new. It doesn't make sense to get a scholarship to learn something that you already know. So go there and explore. And also something really, really fun that we did, it's a Fulbright seminar. So basically they invite you, and when I say invite, I mean they pay you tickets, hotels, meals, everything for a weekend. And according to the field of study, there's like 6 per year. My flatmate went to Houston to NASA because she studies data science. And I went to Seattle, and as you can see, they invite us to the aquarium in the first night. We went to many field trips. I met hundreds of people from different parts of the world. And this was about climate change. So it's basically according to the preference, they're gonna invite you once per year to this seminar where you're gonna meet hundreds of people from different areas of the world that they're also Fulbright, and it's really fulfilling. You're gonna make a lot of friends, and you're gonna feel really, really welcomed. Okay, so last but not least, why study in the US? Okay, so let's be honest, the good and the bad. Let's start with the good. So the US, a lot of new industries are developed and exported in the US. I mean, let's be honest. Netflix, Amazon, all the big tech companies have been born in the US. Most of the products we use every single day are made and designed in the US. And I say design because I'm from that field, so it's what makes sense for me. But again, if you're a journalist, if you're a engineer, whatever, all of it starts in the US. We like it or not, it starts in the US. But of course, that comes with a bad side. It's a very capitalist society. In Spain, we say something that is that we work to live. That's like the Spanish mindset that I think the Portuguese is basically the same. We work to have time to live, but in the US, they live to work. And that's something that you need to take into account if you want to work there for a few years. Of course, maybe it depends on the company, but the idea of work is really, really important for them. It's like being there a lot of hours and not enjoying life a lot because it's a really individualistic society. So it's really hard to make friends. I met a lot of friends and I consider them really good friends. But for example, in Spain, it's really easy to make friends, and in the US, it's not. Okay. Again, place where innovations are born is the land of immigrants, and that's something that they really like. Um, of course, still there's a lot of people that don't like immigrants, but they're gonna welcome you. At least in New York and big cities like SFO, LA, Seattle, Boston, DC, New York, they're gonna invite you. They're gonna ask you where you're from. They're gonna be really nice. Bad things, it's not as safe as Europe. And that's a fact. At least New York. It's not safe. It's not the unsafest city in the US, but it's not safe. The subway is not safe. Walking alone in 3 a.m. is not safe. I can do it here in Madrid, but I cannot do it in New York. That's something that you need to think about. I'm not telling you you're gonna be really unsafe. No, you're just gonna not feel as safe, but it's an adventure. You don't need to think this about. It's not gonna be like forever to live there. It's just gonna be a few years, so it's gonna be okay. Again, job opportunities, yes. It's such a big country with so many companies that at least in Spain it's really hard to find a job, but in the US it's really easy. Even if it's not your field of study, you're gonna find something. You're gonna 100% find something, and it's gonna be easier for you to make a lot of contacts. Another bad thing, as I was telling you before, it's really expensive, at least New York City, really, really expensive. A coffee is $8. So yeah, it's really expensive. Um, you're gonna live. Maybe for example, I cannot afford going to a restaurant every week, every 2 weeks, but I can go one per month. You're gonna live, you're gonna learn how to survive. So your month is gonna be like a student, but that's okay. Of course, if you've been working for a few years in your home country and you have some savings, you can use that to live there, live better and have more experiences. But Fulbright covers the basic necessities. And quality of life is not as good. It's not as good because again, it's a really individualistic society. They go to their home at 7 p.m. It's not like, for example, in Spain, we're really social. I think in Portugal is the same. We're really social. So after school, we're always like, let's get a beer, let's get a coffee, let's hang out for 2, 3 hours. They don't do that there. They don't do that there. Maybe gatherings, it's only 2 hours maximum. So you need to think about it. But again, you're not gonna make your friends or your life. Maybe you do, but it's just an adventure. It's just an experience. Again, a very diverse country. That's something that I love about the US because you're gonna meet people from different places of the world. I only have like 4 American friends, and the rest are from China, Japan, Indonesia, India. You're gonna meet people from different countries of different places of the world. I think that's something that you're gonna really like. The bad side, really competitive, really competitive. Yeah, you're gonna have more job opportunities, but 5 times the people that they apply in Spain are gonna apply there. So you need to take that into account. You're not gonna be, once you receive the scholarship, you're not gonna be unique. You're gonna be another one in the US. So you need to find what makes you different. And that's basically it. Thank you so much for listening. I'm open to any question that you have. And if you apply, good luck and see you in the US.